Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next lesson. Just a reminder that I originally developed this course for the Bangtan Academy Discord community, so if you'd like to find out more, please follow them on Twitter at Bangtan Academy _ so you can get access to other materials and make friends to study with. You can also find me on Twitter at writer_court or on thebtseffect.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn Korean with BTS Chapter 9. We are looking first at page 50, where we have some time expressions. So we previously learned the Sino-Korean numbers and also the native Korean numbers, and now on this page, we're going to learn how to combine those into telling time. So first at the top of the page, they ask you the question, what time is it now in Korea? And in Korean, that is 지금 한국은 몇 시예요? So if you want to ask what time it is, you can just take that 몇 and 시, which is like for hour, so time, 몇 시예요 means what time is it? And then they show us a clock that has the same time, but in AM and PM. So there is a way to tell that in Korean. So for AM, we are going to use 오전, and for PM, you use 오후. And what that basically indicates is before noon and after noon. So AM and PM in English. So if you need to specify AM or PM, you can use 오전 or 오후. Sometimes it won't matter given the context of the conversation, so you don't always have to put those in front of your time. But if it matters, if you're trying to schedule something and it matters, that's how you can tell the difference between is it in the morning or at night. So the time that they've given us is 1:36, and to read that as 1:36 in the morning, it would be 오전 1시 36분. So you can tell from that we put the 오전 first because it tells us AM or PM, and then we put the hour, and the hour takes native Korean numbers, so it's 한시. It's not hanashi. I don't know. It when it is modifying something, it's not hana. It's just han. So 한시 with the native Korean numbers, and then for minutes, the word is 분, but we want to use the Sino-Korean numbers. So that is going to be 30 for 30, and then 6 is 6. So there is a slight pronunciation change here, and you can really hear it if you listen with the language pen, so I definitely recommend going back and doing that. But it's not 36분, like it's not enunciated like that. It changes to 36분. So instead of 10, it's 심, 36분. So 오전 1시 36분. And then for the same time, but in the afternoon or evening hours, you would use 오후. So 오후 1시 36분. 오후 1시 36분. And then over to the side of that, they ask another question. 그럼 이제 무엇을 먹어요? So that means what are you having now? Like what are you eating now? So depending upon the time, you could answer 아침, 점심, or 저녁, which is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. These can be used to refer to the meals, or you can use it to refer to the time period. And then down underneath that, they give you a few examples of different times. So over on the left-hand side, they have not and 밤. So the difference there is daytime and nighttime. Not for daytime, 밤 for nighttime. And then that first column, they just give a few examples of how to read the hour. So 1시, 2시, 3시, 4시, and then it skips forward to 10시, 11시, 12시. So those are just examples of how to read the time. It's just going to be the native number plus 시. And then the next column shows us how to read minutes. So again, that's going to be Sino-Korean numbers plus the suffix 분. So 1분, 2분, 30분, 58분, 59분. And then in the final column, they give us some example times, which I've written on the slide here. So we have the first one is 오전 7시 for 7 in the morning, 오후 1시 for 1 in the afternoon, 6시 15분 for 6:15. It's not specified whether that's morning or night. And then 6시 30분 for 6:30. And you can also just say 6시 반. 반 is like saying half. So it's like half after 6. So 6시 반 is also 6:30. Moving on to page 52 and 53, this is the first key expression, which is another conjugation. This is 올 것이다. So this is future tense, which is also sometimes called probability tense because it doesn't necessarily mean that something is absolutely going to happen in the future. It's more the expectation that something is going to happen in the future. But most people refer to this as future tense for Korean. So the conversation we have on page 52. So the first person says, 주문진 버스 정류장이 멀어, which means is 주문진 bus station far away. So that 주문진 is just a location in Korea at the beach. And then 버스 정류장 we've learned is bus stop. And then 멀어 is the casual way to say, is it far away? The second person answers 아니 가까워, which means no, it's close by. Again, this is in casual speech. 다음에 내릴 거야, which means we're going to get off at the next stop. So 다음에 just means the next one. 내릴 거야 is the casual conjugation for we're going to get off at this stop. So like 내리다 is to get off at a stop. So for conjugations, if the last syllable of the verb ends in a consonant, we're going to use 을 것이다. And if the last syllable ends in a vowel, you're just going to use a ryu character and then 것이다. So the 것이다 doesn't change. It's just whether you use just a ryu or 을 as a full syllable. So 것이다 itself is unconjugated. It's just the dictionary form of that word. So that needs to be conjugated depending upon what level of speech you're using. So if you're just using 반말, it's just 거야. If you're using 요 form, it's 거예요. And if you're using 씁니다 form, it's 겁니다. So 것이다 is used with action verbs, which is indicating that something is expected to happen, whatever that action is expected to happen in the future. But it can also be used with descriptive verbs to indicate the speaker's conjecture. So that's like you're guessing or making an assumption about something, and it's not necessarily like future tense, this is going to happen. So the examples they give you on page 53 for conjugation, the first one we have is 먹다. Because this ends in a consonant, after you take off the ta, you're going to add 을 and then 거예요 if you're conjugating in yo form. So 먹을 거예요. The example sentence is 저는 식당에서 점심을 먹을 거예요, which means I will eat lunch at a restaurant. The second example is 내리다, which it means to get off at a stop. And if we want to conjugate to yo form, it's going to be 내릴 거예요 because it ends in a vowel. So you're adding the 리을 onto that second syllable. So we get 내릴 거예요. The example sentence, 다음 정류장에서 내릴 거예요, which means I'm getting off at the next bus stop or we're getting off at the next bus stop, whatever the context is there. The next conjugation example is for an irregular verb. So this is a real irregular verb. And in the book, they tell you to remove the real and then add real 거예요, which is kind of the same thing as just leaving that first syllable alone and just adding 거예요. So just remember that that real gets removed technically, and then this form of conjugation, 울 거예요, gets added, but with just the real. So if you remove ta like you're supposed to anytime you conjugate, remove ta and then remove dio, you're left with ta, and then add dir 거예요, we get 탈 거예요. So the example sentence is 나중에 한국에 살 거예요, which means later I'm going to live in Korea. The second form of irregular verb is a digit irregular verb. And to conjugate that, we have 듣다. You remove that ta, of course, and then you remove the digit from the bottom. So you're left with just 드. You're going to actually change that digit to a dir. So we end up with 들. And then you want to add your form that you're conjugating into, which is 울 거예요. So then we end up with 들을 거예요, which is really difficult to say, but basically digit verbs, you change the digit to dir and then add 울 거예요. So the example sentence is 저녁에 방탄소년단 노래를 들을 거예요, which means I'm going to listen to BTS songs in the evening. So at the bottom of page 53, they do give you a couple of examples of using this with a descriptive verb. So remember, that's not necessarily indicating a true future tense. It's the speaker's assumption or what the speaker thinks will happen. So the first example is 니콜은 지금 바쁠 거예요, which means kind of like saying I assume or I expect that Nicole will be busy right now. The second example is 내일은 아마 추울 거예요, which means I think maybe tomorrow it will be cold, or I expect that maybe tomorrow it will be cold. So on page 54, we have the second key expression, which is 울까요? So to look at the conversation, first person says, 우리 여기에서 인증샷을 찍을까? Which means, should we take a proof shot here? I'll explain that a little bit more in detail in a minute, but let's look at the second sentence. The second person says, 정말 잘 찍었어. 내 인생 사진이야. Which means, that first part means it was taken well, which is just kind of like saying, the picture came out well, or it's a good picture. I think the language pen just translates that entire first sentence to awesome, which is a little strange, but I guess kind of in context that's what it means. 정말 잘 찍었어 means it was taken well. 내 인생 사진이야 means it's kind of a little slightly of a dramatic phrase in my opinion. So 내 is my, and then 사진 is of course photo. 인생 is life. So basically what you're saying is, literally it's like life's photo. But what that means, like 인생 사진, means like the best picture that has been taken in your life up to this point, which is, like I said, a little dramatic. But, people say it, people hashtag 인생 사진 on Instagram. So that's just, it's a really great picture. It's just another way to express how you feel about the photo. So for usage for 울까요, this is used to ask someone's intention, and it can also be used to make a suggestion. So if you use it as a question to someone else is doing something, and you end with 울까요, basically you're saying, are you planning to do this? Do you intend to do this? And if you say it in a sentence such as 우리 blank 올까요, that's offering a suggestion like, should we do this together, is the intent there. So you can ask someone's intention, or you can make a suggestion of something you could do together. So that applies to action verbs, and if this is used for descriptive verbs, it's asking the listener's opinion of something. So you can use it with descriptive verbs, but the meaning is slightly different. So for conjugation, as always, if it ends in a consonant, use 을까요, and if it ends in a vowel, use the 리을까요. And also, if you want to use this in 반말, you just remove the yo from the end so that it ends in 가. Then for the example sentences and conjugations, the first one is 앉다, for to sit. And then if we conjugate this, we're going to add 을까요 because it ends in a consonant. So we get 앉을까요? Example sentence, 여기에 앉을까요? Do you plan to sit here? Do you intend to sit here? The second one is 마시다, ends in a vowel, so we add the 리을 and then add 까요. So we get 마실까요? The example sentence is 저 카페에서 커피를 마실까요? Which means, do you intend to drink coffee at that cafe? So that 저 is not I, it's that cafe. So like that cafe over there is what they're saying. Then for irregular verbs, we have 놀다, which is to play or hang out. And we're going to remove the 리을 and then add 리을까요, just like the other conjugation with future tense, the same thing. So we end up with 놀까요. The example sentence is 우리 바닷가에서 놀까요, which means, should we play at the beach or hang out at the beach together? I think the language pen says something like spend time at the beach, or, something like that. It all kind of means the same thing. Then for the digit irregular verb, we have 걷다, which is to walk. So we change the digit to 리을 and then add 을까요. So we get 걸을까요. The example sentence is written in 반말, and it reads 너무 배불러. 우리 좀 걸을까? Which means, I'm really full. Should we walk for a bit? 너무 배불러. 우리 좀 걸을까? And then at the bottom of page 55, we get some examples of this type of sentence ending with a descriptive verb. So the first one is 식당에 사람이 많을까요? Do you think there will be a lot of people at the restaurant? So it's asking an opinion rather than, with the action verb where you're suggesting that somebody do something or asking if someone intends to do something. It's asking that person's opinion. And then the second sentence is 자말은 지금 바쁠까요? Do you think Jamal would be busy right now? So for the full conversation on page 56, I will go ahead and read through this, but definitely go back with your language pen afterwards and listen to it. So the first person says, 주문진 버스 정류장이 멀어? Which means is 주문진 bus station far away? Second person says, 아니, 가까워. 다음에 내릴 거야. Which means no, it's close by. We'll get off at the next stop. So then they get off at the stop. And the first person says, 와, 바다가 정말 예뻐, which just means, wow, the sea is really pretty. Then the second person says, 우리 여기에서 인증샷을 찍을까? Should we take a proof shot here? They take a photo. And then the first person says, 정말 잘 찍었어. So the photo was taken well, photo looks good. 내 인생 사진이야. That's that slightly dramatic phrase of it's the best photo I've ever taken. Then the second person responds to that with 마음에 들어. 우리 점심 먹자. 벌써 1시야. So that means, do you like it? Let's go eat lunch together. It's already 1 o'clock. So what I want to explain here, there's a couple of things. So first, I'm going to explain the 인증샷. I already talked about 인생 사진. So 인증샷 is a combination of 인증, which is like certifying something or proving something, and then 샷 is just the Korean spelling of the English word shot. So like photo, shot in a photo. So 인증샷 is a proof photo showing that you did something or went somewhere or ate something or whatever it might be. That's a common word to see on social media if people post photos of their travel or somewhere they went, like a concert, or if they post food shots, whatever. It's an injing shot. So you're like proving that you did this thing. Um, it's kind of like you think about in English if someone like asks you to show receipts. It's kind of like that, except usually I think about receipts in English as kind of a negative connotation. A lot of times, if someone asks, show me the receipts, show me screenshots, they want to, they're saying that because they don't believe you. So, someone could ask for 인증샷 in Korean and mean it like that, but it can also be neutral or positive, even if somebody says, oh, I went to a BTS concert. Somebody might say, show me an 인증샷 because they just want to see photos from your experience. But if someone were to make an outrageous claim and somebody doesn't believe them, then they could also say, show me an injing shot. And if that person has it, then they can show them. And if they don't, then it proves that they were making something up. So it can be used in multiple ways, but it doesn't have to have a negative connotation. It's just, showing that you did something or experienced something. And then the other thing I wanted to explain is 마음에 들다. So there basically, if you see this translated a lot of times, if somebody says 마음에 들어요 or just 마음에 들어, like in a K-drama or something, if you hear that, it's a lot of times translated as to like something, and that, sounds very similar to 좋아하다 because 좋아하다 is to like. So basically the difference is, a literal translation of 마음에 들다 means to enter into your heart. You like something because it has come into your heart versus 좋아하다, which is just to like something. But there is kind of nuanced difference there. So if you say 마음에 들다, that's for like something in the moment. It's something maybe you were first exposed to or something you just saw or experienced. You can say 마음에 들다 and you can conjugate that however, 반말 or formal. 좋아하다 is more an ongoing situation. So, for example, if you say you like BTS, you're not going to say 마음에 들다, you're going to say 좋아하다 because that's like an ongoing thing. But if they release a new music video or a new song and you just heard it or watched the video, you can say 마음에 들어요 because you just saw it and you think you like it. And then later on, after time has passed, you can use 좋아하다. So I hope that makes sense. It's a little confusing. I will link a video from Talk to Me in Korean that explains that in the supplementary materials just for some additional explanation. The other thing to note is if you're going to use 마음에 들다, you're going to use 이 or 가, the subject marking particles. You're not going to use an object particle. So for 좋아하다, you're going to use an object particle. So that's just a distinction. If you want to use one over the other, just remember that 마음에 들다 takes the subject particles and 좋아하다 takes the object particle. So that's it for this lesson, and I will see you in the supplementary one and also the next chapter.